What does purpose mean to you?
Straight in.
Straight in.
And you said straight in. It's always changing. So, and I think that is the biggest thing that I've realized about purpose is that it isn't fixed. It's a state of being. It's not something that I believe we're here to do. I think often there's this idea, purpose can feel heavy, as if it's this big thing that we're supposed to achieve in this lifetime, some kind of legacy project. I think actually that is more of the same flawed thinking that has us equate our value to our output. Purpose for me is the continual exploration of who we are by letting go of who we're not. It is the courage to live in the question, and kind of maintain a detachment as much as possible from fixed identities and explore the magic that is available to us outside of that rigidity.
It feels like sometimes it can be, what's required of us is a lofty aspiration that we have to work towards. And the gap between achieving said purpose and working towards it, we have to remain in pursuit of it and therefore outside of the present.
Yeah.
And unless it's this big, lofty thing that we're going after, we're not worthy.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I think about purpose, sometimes it's, well, yeah, but I have to achieve this big thing. And there's a lot of suffering in that, because purpose, we spoke off camera about seasons. In this season could just be, one of my purposes is just to be a great friend to my friends. And that's not something with a finite date attached to it. It's a state of being as I move towards it. How do you reach that conclusion? Because it's a difficult place to get to, and many of us are still stuck in thinking that we have to go out and achieve something big.
Thank you for that question. I think it's a really important question. Not how did I get there, or how am I getting there? I don't think I'm anywhere.
Yeah.
But I'm not where I was even 6 months ago, that's for sure. I think one of the big gifts of my life is contrast. I've experienced so much contrast, in terms of the start of my adult life. I was a mum at 17. I had an MBE from the King by the time I was 34. Expelled from school at 15, was invited to number 10 Downing Street to contribute to roundtables on entrepreneurship in my 20s. Huge contrast. And I'm mixed. My father was a black Jamaican. My mother is a white English woman, growing up with both of them. Living in hostels when I was pregnant, traveling on private jets with A-list clients. And the gift of all of this, though it's taken a while for it to really land, is that we are none of it, that actually none of it defines who we are. And, the early part of my adult life was so driven by shame and having to prove something, with this teen motherhood badge. Achievement was the way that I created a sense of value for myself, because I discovered pretty early on that when I graduated from uni at 21 with a 3-year-old, people were like, amazing, more, and in a lovely way. But soon enough, it was like, okay, what's the next goal? What's the next thing? And that will take you to a point, and it doing pays dividends. I'm sure you both, we all know that, but it's not sustainable, and it will take you down in the end. And I think, to come back to your question, it is the realization that freedom, liberation, peace, and a whole other way of existing exists outside of our attachment to circumstance, partners, anything material and fleeting, because we are none of it. And within that recognition that hierarchy, this idea of better than, worse than, good, bad, is the freedom to play, to play and have none of it, to really it create for the love of it, without needing validation from or applause or commercial, benefit. And that is where the magic exists. And I have the the great privilege of having worked with so many greats in different capacities. And sometimes that's a greatness that has a global profile, and other times it's quiet and it's sitting beside those who are departing this earth. But there is a recognition, like you said, about the power and the importance, and the fact that really it's only the present moment that holds any real meaning in the end.
When you talk there, I think about non-attachment to outcome without the loss of meaning to what you're doing. And I think for many, when we feel lost or disconnected, it's waking up in the day and not being able to attach meaning to the things that we're doing, the spaces that we're in, the people that we're around. And it's this dance between not being overly attached to the experience, but still giving meaning to it. And I think that's a really difficult, we speak a lot about this, how difficult that is, because we get into something good, right? Let's say like in your case, you know, achieved amazing things. And then you want to hold on to it because it's given you that really positive reinforcement. And then when the identity shifts to something else, it's almost like clinging to that past event, that past achievement, because that then defines you. And in doing so, you can't actually step into the evolution of that or the next phase, which may be seen as up or down, but actually, as you said, isn't. It's just the next. It's just the next thing, isn't it?
It's fascinating, isn't it? I think we were talking just before we came on air about ambition as well. I think something you mentioned there really sparked something for me, and what you were saying before around the story with Magic Mind, where actually probably 12 months ago for me, I was going through this healing and felt actually I'd reconciled my relationship with parts of me that were driven by lack, or needing to prove something to someone, or not feeling good enough. And so achievement, similarly for me as it is for so many people, was a way to do that. And through my work or through, you know, sport or whatever it was. And I felt this lull in ambition. I was like, maybe this is just what happens. Maybe this is part of the cycle where I just go into not needing to achieve in the same way. And then the more I settled into that sense and continued on that path, I went, it's not that ambition goes. It was actually, I felt like it transformed into something else, almost a healthier form of ambition. And you alluded to this as well, Jess. It becomes more about creating from a place of love, creating from a place of service, from abundance. And that goes so far beyond the ambition that comes from that place of lack, because that chip on your shoulder or that need to prove is like a small knife in your side, just prodding away, and it might be a slow bleed out, but it's a bleed out all the same. And so I think, I'd be fascinated to hear from both of you about, I guess, how your relationships with ambition have evolved over time as well.
It's like a fuel change, isn't it? It's like lack was and it's never the thing that's that's bad or good. It's the energy that is. I had this chat with my son this morning, actually. We were talking about teachers and the fact that, or subjects, and the fact that perhaps it's not that you didn't like geography or history. It's what was the energy that was running through that teacher that was imparting that knowledge to you. And I think it's that, isn't it? And it's, lack, self-serving, where we need something from this ambition, versus love, which is selfless, and it's felt. And I love that we're in a place now where we're having these conversations and recognizing that this huge elephant that has been an elephant in the room of energy, and that's running through everything that we create. That I think it's that love that creates the connectivity with others, which really is our truth. And so when we create from love, or we are driven to achieve through love for the sake of love, it's like a homecoming for all of us, because on some level we're recognizing that this sense of separation, that we're moving away from that, and we're really coming home to what is this oneness, which is who we've always been, beyond the particular identity we occupy in this lifetime, and who will always be beyond the next one. So there's some part of us that's like,
It's that quiet knowing of this is who I am. but also it's a shared piece as well. And it's also magnetic, which is where I think the ambition or the achievement taking a different form always becomes inevitable when you drop into that state, because you're connected to that pure sense of yourself, and things flow much more smoothly and freely, not necessarily easily, but certainly more freely than when you are grinding and hustling from that place of lack and scarcity.
I think about this in the context of team sports. It's something that I've been exploring recently, where my businesses in the past have mostly been me as a solo founder or a founder with a silent partner. And a lot of the aspiration within the business, I've convinced myself, is about doing something positive for the world, but actually is about my need to satisfy how I feel about myself.
I know that
and
one.
prove to other people, prove to other people that I'm worthy, essentially, right? And there's been this shift recently with the project that I'm doing at the moment, where I have a co-founder who's as equally as involved as me, but then we have this whole wider team and wider community that we're building with. And the highs are so much higher because it's shared, and the lows are so much easier because it's shared. And I feel that, as you said quite rightly, we are individual in our experience, but we are so more connected than we realize. And everything is a shared experience. Everything that has any value is a shared experience. And that was like a breakthrough for me as it relates to ambition. It's like, wow, this feels so much more meaningful when I get the success, but I share the success with others. And it's so much easier when I get the success and when I have the challenge and I'm able to share and problem solve the challenge with other people. But there's a humility that goes with that, because when we're operating from fear and we're doing these ventures for validation, we're not able to recognize our own shortcomings because we're constantly seeking to prove that we don't have the shortcomings. So by acknowledging them and bringing people in to help, we're compounding that feeling of lack, right? Given your work with the people that you've worked with, what would you say are the differences between those who have success and are content with the success that they have, and those that have success and it's never quite enough?
You use the word humility. I think that's massive, because there is a point that we get to, or not, where we discover, we think it's us. For the longest time, we think it's us. We're creating these wins and we think it's us. And we come to a place, if we are blessed and fortunate enough, to discover it's not. We are a vessel for something much wiser than us, much greater and much more infinite. And we are just the vessel which, if we will lay down our will and allow it to come through, its plan for our life is so much more beautiful and magnificent than our agenda. And we just, and that's a taking apart, isn't it? I think the people that I work with, that, there's either a recognition that it's bigger than them, beyond them, and they play a crucial role in it. And there's a reverence, which is the piece that has them bring in the discipline, the privilege of leadership, the privilege of responsibility. And then there's those that haven't had that realization or awakening yet. And I think they really fall into, these days, thankfully, it's more of the first group.
It's a form of suffering, because to assume that we have agency and that we're bringing this in also is the same energy that assumes that when something completely out of our control happens, it's our fault.
Yes.
And actually, it's liberating to know that I have agency over my day-to-day decisions, but that amazing opportunity that seemed to come out of nowhere, I didn't create that. I was in the energy state to receive that and to recognize it, but I didn't create it. And you have to attach humility to that. I've had the biggest experience of that. The project that we're building at the moment, this hotel project, I had a phone call one day, which was the start of it, from someone I hadn't spoken to for like 6 months. I didn't create that opportunity. That came to me. And then if I really think about it, the business I started before that, I didn't create. The business before that, I didn't do any of it. So it's like recognizing that I don't have that control actually is liberating, and opens me up to the fact that what I want for myself is nowhere as big and as magical and as amazing as perfect as what is out there for me. If I can surrender judgment on what is right now and just get in the flow with what is supposed to come in, which is easy to do when it's an amazing business opportunity.
Yes.
And it's really difficult to do when it's your partner leaving, someone doing wrong by you, losing money, whatever it might be. That's when it becomes challenging, right? So I would ask you, given the highs, let's look at the lows, the challenges. How were you able to, if you were, recognize those challenges as necessary and as part of the process? How do you think about them now? When it comes up now, how do you process that?
We'll be right back to the episode after a very quick word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Whoop. The all-new Whoop is here. The only wearable that turns your health and fitness data into personalized guidance, now 7% smaller, with over 14 days of battery life. I've been using Whoop to stay on top of my recovery, training, and stress during busy periods, and the insights have genuinely changed the way I look after my body, how I train, and my overall health and well-being. Whoop includes a heart screener with on-demand ECG readings so you can check in on your heart anytime and share the results with your healthcare provider. It also includes HealthSpan, a new feature that demystifies the aging process and shows how your daily habits impact your pace of aging, as well as hormonal insights for personalized guidance throughout your cycle or pregnancy for women. It's the only wearable that gives you a truly comprehensive view of your body, designed to help you improve your performance, longevity, and overall health. You can join Whoop now at join.whoop.com/human nature. That's join.whoop.com/human nature.
I wrote something when I wrote Purpose, the book, and there's a line in there which is, strip back is where we meet ourselves. And over again, I discover that every now and again, I need to be stripped back because inevitably this stuff lands. And then because we're human, or at least for me, I fall in and out of it. I forget. Yeah. And I need reminding sometimes. And sometimes that's really painful. And for me, that has looked like, everything from chronic pain, illness, which meant I couldn't work, which has an impact on my livelihood and creates all kinds of uncertainty. Where was my faith then in those moments when suddenly, I'm unable to generate income? It's looked like the inbox suddenly slowing down, with opportunities and invitations because perhaps you're not so relevant in that moment. Where is my sense of self then, and ultimately heartbreak, all of the things. But ultimately how I understand that now is that where my grip to an illusion, to untruth, has been too strong, I've needed to be pulled out of it, placed on the floor for a while, present, awake, fully in reality. And from that space of realness and presence, I've started to be able to see. And then with courage, because there's always that, we've got choice. And so there's always that possibility of going back because it's actually too scary to let go of who we were and be in that space that is necessary before we are fully embodying this next iteration of ourselves. That space in between is tough. You're untethered. You're in the middle of the ocean with nothing to hold on to, which is really where we always are. But sometimes it's more visceral than others. And if I've been courageous, which thankfully so far I have, grace kicks in. Grace kicks in and reminds me that you weren't that thing. You're no longer that thing. And that's not to make any of those things wrong or bad, because on some level I've attracted them at that time. But it's become time for me to shed, and with the courage to stay the next, the continuation, the evolution has come through, and it's
permission to evolve.
Yeah.
Permission to evolve. I think we get so rigid and so stuck in our identity that any upgrade which requires a letting go of the identity, we're sometimes unable to proceed because we're clinging to who we've told Instagram that we are, or the job that we've always done, or the partner we've always been.
We'd rather choose certain discomfort over uncertainty. Like, that's easier for our mind to rationalize, is I'll stick in the familiar pain rather than choosing something unfamiliar and uncertain. And I think that causes us a lot of pain. And normally we'll get a little knock or a little tap going, "Are you sure?" And if you don't listen, that's where you get grabbed by the scruff of the neck and thrown on the floor naked and going, "I tried to warn you." And here we are. Something you alluded to there, I guess, was the in-between, the liminal, these liminal spaces between where we've been and where we're going. And I loved your point, because it's something I feel really strongly about when we talk about liminal spaces, which is technically we're always there. Yes. We just like to convince ourselves that we're not, because we have these ideas of this illusion of a fixed identity or a fixed sense of self. And I think that for me has been something that's really dropped in recently, of just going, the present moment is the purest form of the liminal space. When you're in that, it's constant flux, it's constant process, it's constant evolution, constant letting go and calling in. And we just have such a hard time accepting that, and accepting that for what it is. And I think faith for me has been, that gives me the ease in that place of discomfort. Has faith always been something you felt connected to? And if not, where did it come from for you, that connection to faith?
I've always had a belief, went to a Church of England school, said my prayers at night like a little good girl. But it's developed, and it's still developing. And, I loved what, can't remember who said it, but that, how freeing it is to discover that, I remember when my dad was at the end of his life, and that's when I had, I didn't know terms like awakening, spiritual awakening. It wasn't part of my vocabulary. Degree was in journalism, evidence-based, entrepreneurial. How old was I? 36. And it was during that period where, for the first time in my life, I really surrendered. I got to a place, I'd been very determined, as you can imagine, a 17-year-old with a baby who goes to uni when she's 19. I was determined to make something, of my life, and I had so much to prove. And that will started to become undone when I was 36. And I became present for the first time to care for my dad at the end of his life, and realized for the first time I couldn't control this. There was nothing I could do to change the inevitable. And that was where the realization that, I thought everything had rested on my shoulders my entire life, and the discovery in this kind of involuntary surrender in the hospital car park in Hammersmith, where I was like, please give me the strength to be who I need to be for my dad. There was no thinking, it was just a kind of help. And it was the first help. And it was from a place of real despair and surrender. And of course, when we ask, we're given.
Yeah. Ask and you shall receive.
Yeah. And wow, to discover that. And so that's really where my, despite years of yoga up until that point, meditation, Reiki, and all of the things, really starting to feel, through that grief that was that portal during that time with my dad, and starting to develop and build a relationship with the Most High, which continues to evolve. And just recently, a wonderful coach that I work with talked to us, Robert Holden, talked to us about the fact that love is intelligent. That was game-changing for me. It can be trusted. We can trust love to guide our lives. Love, God, source. Yeah, because for some of us, we need more more evidence than others.
When you said about faith, I immediately went to I think you shared it with me, or I shared it with you, the track the other day, the Nick Mulvey track about rejection being God's protection. And it just it landed with me so well. And it was this discourse on rejection is God's protection. And if we could recognize and receive that, we would go out seeking rejection almost. You'd be so open to rejection because you know that it's a course correct to where you're supposed to go. And Jamie and I are speaking recently about breakups and endings of relationship. And something that I've experienced recently, and dropping into that, it was so much about rejection that I felt. And it was like, well, now I don't love because I'm not receiving the love. And I'm like, hang on a minute. If my love is conditional on receiving love, then it wasn't love, it was fear. So can I now practice love without the condition that I need to receive the love back in in any form? And accept that actually this rejection of what I'm interpreting as rejection is actually protection, a redirection, and I can choose to stay in a state of love regardless, rather than shift into this state of fear and ill feeling. And it was like, to your point about this, like click, it was like something just clicked. And I was like, I'm creating my own prison by making my love conditional on this situation that I have no control over. And to ask someone to love us forever, to ask someone to love us next week is again trying to control something that we're never going to have any control over. And I think this is something that shows up in so many relationships, is that because we're so insecure and what we think is love is actually fear, we're demanding something impossible of the other person. You will love me like forever, won't you? Like, let's sign a contract to say that you'll definitely love me. It's so conditional. Whereas the experience actually, I mean, it should just be, well, right now in this moment, am I in a state of love? And can I practice that with you? Yes. And then forget tomorrow, next week, next year, because we'll never know what's going to happen.
It's that reframe, right? From love as an emotion to a state of being and a way of being in the world, as you were saying about purpose as well. We think it's a thing. We think love's a thing, but actually it's just a letting go. And I remember having this moment in my own life where I was thinking about that very classic quote of, if you love someone, let them go. And we always think it's about let them leave if they want to. Like if that's what's best, love them enough to let them go. But actually it's like, just loosen your grip. Like that's love, not choking the life out of it so that they stay, because that is the surest and fastest way to make sure that they leave is by the clinging and the holding. But then we find ourselves in this, we were speaking about this in the last conversation as well, this interplay between the ego mind, the finite mind, and the infinite self, and the fact that those two aren't going anywhere. The ego isn't going anywhere, as much as some people will like to say, kill the ego, dissolve the ego. It's not going anywhere, and that is the part of us that drops back into fear, that forgets, as you described. We forget time to time, what it's all about. For you, and for people listening, what plays a role in your life when you do notice yourself perhaps in that state of forgetting, or being not as connected to self with a capital S? What are the things that help you come back to that quiet knowing?
Today, it's about taking responsibility for being led. Taking responsibility is what leadership has come for. Being led is what leadership means for me now, because through my role as a mother with a 13-year-old boy, who is my biggest teacher, magnificent, challenging, in equal proportion. And because of the, of the stretch, that's the challenge. That's what the challenge is. And actually, my responsibility is to ensure that I am regulated enough to hold space for him, to come from presence as much as possible, which is the opposite of how I've lived so much of my life, all of us. But to relearn parenting from attempting to control, letting go of some of those cultural, norms that say parenting, you don't be disrespectful, you don't answer, all of those things that we have. But equally in every, it's all transferable. So yeah, it starts with taking that responsibility. And for me, that looks like my meditation practice. It looks like daily journaling. It looks like dancing now. You know, and you get these nudges. I was in Paris recently for the weekend, and was at the Opera House, and most incredible contemporary dance show. And like the tears were just rolling down my face. I mean, it was choreographed, but they were quite clearly, you know, spirit was moving through them as they moved, and it was magnificent. And the tears were rolling down my face. And at the end, everyone gave a standing ovation. And I came back and I was like, I need to be a dancer. That's what I'm supposed to do next. And of course, you know, soon enough, it dawned on me that that's not what I'm supposed to do next. But I do need to dance. I do need to move and remember how much of a part of me dancing was as a youngster, and still is. And so I think it's ever changing, but it's maintaining enough awareness to listen, notice the guidance, and respond to it. And
one thing I'm really interested to talk to you about is what we think of as paradoxical insofar as a relationship between entrepreneurship and spirituality, when in fact it's correlative. And traditionally, to be successful in business, it's rooted in the shadow masculine traits of dominance, leadership, dominance hierarchy, force, and the spiritual teaching around surrender and collaboration and connectivity and flow. And you shared a story just before, but I'd like to, how you think about entrepreneurship and how you think about this new wave of entrepreneurship that's more conscious, more spiritually aligned, and how we can actually upgrade our entrepreneurial capacity through spiritual practice.
Love the question. Yeah, I get really excited about, and so we were chatting before about people who, for me, about contrast, I think, this bridge, people who can be the bridge, who operate into quite different worlds, and are unafraid to be fully expressed in all of the facets of who they are. And I mentioned Rafi Farouk, CEO of Genie AI, who is somebody like that, you know, who is integrated enough to, and it's, in my work we talk a lot about being first on the dance floor. You know, it's nerve-wracking being first on the dance floor, or one of the first. But as we edge out, we let other people know it's safe to come follow us, and they can shake a leg too, you know. There's nothing to fear, it's safe. And people may giggle, you know, and you might be out there on your own for a while, and they might even not want to be your friend, but actually your commitment to expressing yourself in your truth is more important than that rejection. But I think it's where we have to go, isn't it? It's congruent. It's about congruence. It's about moving beyond this compartmentalized way of being and collecting all these parts of ourselves and bringing them back and integrating them. And that means that who we are on the Friday evening yin yoga or meditation space is the same as who we are in the boardroom. And being brave enough to speak to the importance of frequency, vibration, energetic alignment, love versus fear as a fuel, and really honor them with the importance that they hold, because otherwise it's like we're all having the wrong conversations. We sit around these tables talking about strategy and business development, when actually the most important factor in our success is the frequency from which we are creating anything. And yet very few people are talking about it. So those that are, I'm right in their corner.
It's a superpower, because companies are tribes, and all innovation that impacts culture and society comes from the private sector. So when we sit around complaining about government, we forget that actually we as the collective have the power to bring about change. Change is achieved through tribes and communities, collectives, groups of people. Companies are groups of people that are set up to solve problems. And in order to solve the biggest problems that we have to inject this level of consciousness and awareness that will allow us to solve the problems in a way that best serve humanity. So the leaders that we need are those that have that level of awareness and can bring those practices in. And there's a reason that practices like breath work, like meditation, like talking as a group in a circle without hierarchy have been around for thousands of years because they work, because they enable you to take something that's an idea and impact millions of people over the world. Just what we need is maybe ideas now that are more supportive of pushing human health and well-being. And this is why I'm so pleased that the wellness space, as it were, is growing to the extent that it is. And there's more founders, there's more entrepreneurs, there's more investment coming into this space that seeks to support people's well-being. Now, people can have a conversation and say, well, the wellness industry, it's booming, but people are sicker than ever and we're more disconnected. Yeah, these things take time. But I'd be way happier about investment coming into this space for companies that are looking to improve well-being and do so in a way that becomes democratized over time and therefore impacts more people, then the same investment go into technologies that help you get your food delivered 5 minutes faster, or that improve supply chain efficiency so that we can ship GMO grain around the world, right? It's like, that's where the money should be going. And like it or not, money is simply energy, current energy. It has a power. It's neither good nor bad. It's to be used. So I think this new wave of entrepreneurship overlap with spirituality, the dependence on bringing that level of consciousness into business is what's going to superpower the world. I think that's what's going to bring about the most change.
This episode is brought to you in partnership with Stride. And I'm going to hand over to Andrew, the founder of Stride, to tell you a little bit more about it.
Millions of us track our steps every day. We track our sleep stages, we track our heart rate and our heart rate variability. But what's crazy is that we don't actually track what's going on inside, and I want to change that. I believe that tracking your internal biomarkers and biology should be as common and as habitual as tracking our wearable data. Whether you're already tracking your fitness, your sleep, your recovery, whether you're looking for better energy and resilience and focus in your day-to-day life, be that at work or at home, or if you're just looking to be as healthy as possible for as long as possible, Stride One gives you complete clarity for your health. Your membership includes expert coaching, personalized recommendations, access to tailored supplements just for you, and ongoing regular retesting. You'll regularly track your DNA, your gut microbiome, advanced blood biomarkers, and biological age. You'll be assigned your own registered dietitian for expert coaching and ongoing support. And we wrap all of this into a simple, easy to use digital platform. We'll help you turn your health data into action. This is more than a membership. It's a movement towards smarter choices, longer life, and complete clarity for your health.
You can get 10% off all your orders with Stride at getstride.com/human. Now let's get back to the show.
If you look at the change that we've witnessed in the last 5 years, like post-COVID, it's insane. The things that we're talking about now, the change that's coming about, like it's happening fast. In polarity to that, we have a lot of challenges still. There's conflicts, there's all sorts that are happening at the same time. So it's difficult to reconcile it, but we have to, I think it has to be spoken about in spaces such as this.
And that's that rich contrast, isn't it? Again, we need that polarity to nudge us into the light, to nudge us into truth. We can only know, it's like me. I've always felt like mediocrity, and that it is it's so unfortunate. Give me challenge. Not too much, thank you. I've had plenty. But there's a gift in it. There's a gift in it if we can dig deep and know that we aren't having to find our way through on our own. Because
on that with the challenge.
Yeah.
It's a thing of be careful what you wish for, because you can have anything you want, but you will be served the challenge that allows you to become the person to get the thing you want.
Right.
And that challenge will be in direct proportion to the thing that you want.
Yeah.
So you better make sure you really want it.
Yeah.
Because if it's something big, the challenge will be as big, because it has to be, because you have to, in order to become that person, move through that challenge. It's just the awareness as the challenge comes that it's necessary for that next part. And it's not always obvious, because it's not always linear. But I said I wanted to do that. And now I'm having to deal with this over here. Oh, maybe it's because the business you said you wanted requires you to heal the relationship with the feminine. And so the challenge shows up in your relationship, not in your business. And until you can heal the relationship with the feminine, you can't step in to be the leader that can lead that business, as an example.
So there's always gifts. There are always gifts, yeah. And perspective is a really great one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because, you know, I the number of times that I give thanks for being able to recognize challenge for the, you know, the fertile soil that it is. Because otherwise there's been times where it's felt like it would have taken me under. But to recognize, you know, there's wisdom here. There is a greater wisdom at play here. What do I need to see? You know, what is it I'm being taught? And inevitably coming through that, like you say, there's always light and gifts and expansion in equal proportion to the challenge. And that is the reward for being brave enough to move through it and not cling.
I'm going in a different direction.
Oh, please.
I want to talk about parenting.
Oh, okay.
And I've had a number of conversations recently as someone who's not a parent, with friends of mine who have children. And you mentioned your son being, you know, a mirror, you know, and there are challenges inherent to parenting and becoming a mother very young. I can imagine it amplifies that.
He's
right?
obviously the second. My daughter is 26.
So too. A lot of my friends will speak to parenting as an intense form of spiritual experience. You know, we're having this mirror held up to us, to all our wounds, our patterns. Within that, for yourself and everything that you've achieved, you know, alongside being a mother, where does that slot into the process for you as far as how you've grown and evolved as a human being?
So mothering second time around is obviously very different to to how it was the first time around when I was on that, you know. And there are implications of that too, because we remain mother and daughter. And thankfully we have a beautiful relationship today, which is a lot of credit to her. Again, more recently, it's recognizing that sometimes my agenda has to go out the window. So sometimes, you know, I'm a big scheduler. Sometimes that schedule just has to get parked, and not just for the week. You know, recently I've had a realization that actually this need for presence, and as you know, some of my elders have kind of explained that, you know, these teen years, they're getting older, but they need more time and more presence and more attention rather than less. And I'm experiencing that. And that suddenly means that, you know, mothering has to be front and center. And the other parts of my life, like my ambition and, you know, my desire to create, have to move around the guidance of this being that is in that I'm custodian of. And he requires presence. He is very different in how he processes information to, I'm big picture, visionary. He's very linear. I have to meet him where he is, which means parking my way of doing things. And yeah, there's a vulnerability in that because he's also unfiltered, which is really great for just, you know, disseminating your ego. But there's no emotionality in it. It's just his truth. And it's teaching me how not to people please. It's teaching me, how to have honest, truly honest relationships, which, might mean that you are disliked in the short time, but ultimately you are always in service. When you're in your truth, even if people don't like it in the moment, you're always in service. Of the greater good.
We started talking about purpose, and I feel like through perhaps social media, through digital age where we're so connected and we see so many examples of success, we've convinced women in particular that their purpose has to be something so grand outside of, and it almost like belittles the act of parenting, and men as well. But notably, I see this with my female friends where this pressure to go out and achieve and delay motherhood or not think about motherhood, that's more valuable than being a parent. it's quite sad because to nurture a life and to bring a life into existence and to play that role is the most powerful, meaningful thing I think any of us can do, man or woman. Where I see it being more difficult for women, and I have this conversation with my female friends, is that there's almost a time sensitivity to it. So I'm 35. I've got friends of my age, women that like, I just need to get to this point before I think about kids. And it's like that pressure to achieve something external before, and to value that over the idea of family and relationship to a child, I think it's a difficult one. How do you think about that?
I mean, yeah, I think everything you said is true, and we internalize so much of that stuff as women. You know, there's the achievement, there's also, you know, being attractive and all of these things that we are supposed to maintain. But we're only beholden to the paradigm that we subscribe to. I don't subscribe to that anymore. And I have been gifted with the recognition that receiving the MBE, or, you know, the big keynotes at the lectern bear no more significance than the momentary conversation I have in presence with my son at the dining table, which has him feel seen. You know, this hierarchy is not real. It's man-made. It's something we've created, which has imprisoned us. It's you know, and so doing away with that brings equal value to every single moment that I am present. What is the quality of my presence in this moment here with you? Because I'm fully here with you. You know, I feel the connection as a result. You know.
Well, I reflect on this in relationship, and less about parenting, but I journaled at the beginning of June, and it was, at the end of June, start of July, and it was a reflection on the previous 6 months. And I was thinking less about what do I want to go and achieve in the next 6 months, but it was really to take time to think about what am I proud of in the last 6 months that I've done. And the first thing that came to me wasn't about anything to do with business or sport or anything external. It was my ex-partner had a car crash in another country and sent me a message and said, will you come? And without even thinking about it, I flew straight there. And when I reflected on that, I'm actually really proud of myself for doing that. Not because I thought it was going to, you know, I was going to get any kind of reward from it. I didn't share it. I've not spoken about it at all until now. But because I recognized that for once, despite all the mistakes I'd made in the past, where I put work first, business first, opportunities before people, even with my parents, with my family, it was a turn where I was able to put first, despite having so much going on, cancelled meetings, cancelled everything, the expense, everything else. I immediately went to, I'll come here and be there for you. Even though we're not together, even though it's not, someone needs me, I'll go and be there. And I got more meaning from that experience than I did from achieving anything else in that 6 months. And there was no outcome. It was just, I was there for someone for a week who needed me. And it kind of reset how I think about achievement and how I think about impact. Because impact, the way I think about it with business is, I want to help this many people. And we get sucked into thinking about impact in terms of reach and numbers and width, as opposed to the depth, more as opposed to the depth of impacts that we can make on one person. And that is enough. Day to day, if you're looking to make an impact right now, the next coffee shop you go into, before you say, yeah, I'll have that please, just say, hey, how are you? How you do it? Like, make a connection with someone. That depth of impact we can choose at any time. And it's not necessarily always about solving a problem for millions of people, which is amazing, of course. Sometimes it's just about impacting like one person. And 100%. You made me think about that when I wasn't even thinking that. That just came up for me when you talked about the motherhood.
But it feels like a privilege. And I learned that. That was a gift of, you know, of death, actually. You know, a privilege to be able to be there fully with somebody at their time of need. And we give to them, but we're giving to ourselves. And it's like we bring us all home in that moment because we were always one anyway. We've just forgotten. That's the real stuff. It's just that the metric system that we have is it's faulty.
You can sit in that for a minute.
Yeah, I'm sitting in a lot of things.
What's coming up for you?
It's interesting. There's a teacher that we both love, a guy called Rupert Spira, who's a non-dual philosopher, talks a lot about connection to being aware, connection to awareness. And I've been to quite a few of his meetings and seminars in London, and I always think I'm going there to learn information and become more educated on a topic. And sure, that comes as a byproduct. But what I realized after a few of those meetings that he was leading was that I wasn't there for that at all. I was there for his unique ability to, through language in a way not many people can, connect me to the direct experience of awareness. And I was just sitting, as we kind of just sank back there into that place here of actually having zero expectations for this conversation, as far as we said to you before we came on air. No idea where this is going to go, but it's going to be fun. And that moment where you actually do just sink into what is coming up is presence. It's that pure presence. And you don't have to think in that moment because it's just coming through you. So yeah, I feel very, very grateful to both of you for this conversation. It's been really beautiful.
That feels like a good place to wrap it.
Wasn't my intention, but we could take it there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, you're doing beautiful work. Yeah, just respect.
It's been a pleasure.